Today I'm going to show you how I take care of me chooks. Well, what is a chook? Well, a chook is the proper way to say chicken. And I've got about 16 chooks, and well, not including the roosters. Got 16 hens and 2 roosters, and this is the cage I have them in here. I just want to show you the routine that I've got going in the morning, and then show you all the areas they feed, because I have them free ranging. Apart from at night, they're totally free to eat whatever they want, whenever they want, and do whatever they want. And I have basically got them on a sprouted mix of barley, and then I give them in the middle of the day. I'll give them a like a supplement, a general seeds mix, which I'll show you that in a minute. So first thing I do is I let them out, and they then go for a bit of a run, stretch their wings a bit. I've got them in a deep litter system in here, and which needs a bit of new hay. I'll clean out that old stuff soon. And there's their eggs up the back there. And I don't really take a lot of care of their cage because they spend so much time outside. So really I just use the cage for them to roost in. We've had such a good winter of rain that there's been a lot of food around in grass, and that's not bad stuff, but because it's wet, it's also grown a lot of bugs. Now this is my other little cage of hens here. These are my younger hens, and they've only been laying for a couple of months, those ones, because they're the youngest. So but anyway, they're all laying now, so I'm getting out of 16 hens 12 to 14 eggs a day. I have bred them myself. Basically I ended up with a rooster, an Isa brown rooster, just by chance, and I kept the fertile eggs. Now Isa browns are a composite breed, so they're not a specific purebred animal. They've got different types of grandparents, and when you have them breed again with each other, you'll get a flock that looks like that, because it's all got so much variety in it from the different types of genetics that's in them. That's what happened, and I think it looks really nice. They're not quite as good a layers as Isa browns, but they are a very good layer. And like I can see in those hens there, I can see it's like I think in Isa browns they have what would you call them? Leghorns, Rhode Island whites, and Rhode Island reds, and I can see a little bit of those sort of genetics coming through in a lot of those hens there. Next thing I do is, after I let the hens out, I let out the roosters, because I got 2 roosters. I think it's good to have roosters because they keep the hens protected, and they're always looking up for predators, and it's a job then someone else doesn't have to do, like me. And I keep them in the barn because they're noisy things, so they're away from the house at 3 o'clock in the morning when they start crowing. And the first thing they do when they get out is they go straight for the hens and see who they can boss around and mate with. I've chosen those roosters based on their persona. Now, when I let the hens out and the roosters, I get my barley sprouts out for them, and so the system I have going here, I soak them overnight in water, and then I sprout them or continue to grow them over 3 days. So that's day 3. You can see they're all beautiful and getting long roots on there, and there's a little sprout at the top. That is the day after the soaking. So you got the soaking, day after, next day, and the final day. Apparently it's day 4 that has the most nutrition for a sprout for your chooks. Now what I do is I give them a bit of water. They don't eat them all straight away, so just fill up a little bit. So I water them so they last a few more hours. And the roosters will call over the hens. And he's the boss rooster, that's Charlie. He's Tufty over here. He's the non-dominant rooster. He's been bullied. But he doesn't know he's bigger and stronger than Charlie because he's younger. So he's always been picked on a bit. That's alright. We've still got 2 roosters that do their job. Now after these hens and roosters have a feed, I notice they go off to the areas around the house for, there goes one. Actually no, that's not the reason why they left. That was because a hawk just flew over. I'll come back in a minute now. So they'll go off and lay their eggs after this feed. Not all of them. Now let them eat while I mix up the next lot of barley sprouts. So I tip that in there. Now I'll just let that drain. If you have a smell of that, it smells like beer, as the hops are getting going on that barley. Give that a rinse. And I give the other 2 a rinse as well. This is very important to give them a rinse, because if you don't rinse them, they go rotten. Well, they get stuck on mouldy, and then they're useless. They poison your chooks. Now I've forgotten to get my, I've got a few left there. I've forgotten to get my fresh barley. Right, so that will drain. I'll go get my barley. Here they are, still eating. They'll fill their crops up there. And there's poor old Tufty. He'll go back and have a bit more of a feed later. Right now, big fella. So, in here, got some old bins. So I give them about, so for 16 or 18 chooks all up. So whatever that is, be less than half a kilo or less than a pound of barley. I just soak that overnight. Well, it's morning now, so all day and all night, so roughly 24 hours. And that's enough to get it activated to start to sprout. And it won't drown it in that time either. Don't need very much, just need enough to cover it. I put a stick in there, stop the next bucket from sinking down into the water, so it generally does get a flush or a chance to drain properly. And if you notice, I've got holes in the bottom. That's why all that water can come out. And then I'll just put it back on the back of the ute, because that's the most convenient place to put it. There we go. And I put another bucket on top, because if I don't put that bucket on top, the possums come and they eat the barley out of the top bucket. Yeah, I've got to cover it up, keep them away. Not many chooks left here. They're all starting to walk off. So what they do is they go out this way, and they have access to the whole, like 360 degrees around the farm house. So, and they utilise almost all of it as far as gathering their foraging type food. So they pick grass and they go for bugs. And this is all to decrease the price of what I have to buy to keep them fed, and also make the eggs a lot more healthy for me and my family to eat. Now this is an area that they go to lay, because it's one of the challenges I have in having them free ranging, is that they will go and lay eggs where they want. But they usually pick fairly obvious spots, so it's not too much of an Easter egg hunt. And in there is a hen already laying in an abandoned old cage, converted water tank. So hens and roosters, they'll go foraging around these bushes, these salt bush here. Hey Roxy, good girl. Nice little dog, except she's a chook killer, so you have to watch her. So they go through this entire area, scratching, foraging for bugs mainly. And so there's not many bugs really. Little things they go for. And in the wild, chooks have a basic, I think it's about a 70 or maybe more percentage of their diet comes from bugs. So they're almost carnivores. They also have sprouts as a desired food as well. When we bring them into our sort of care, we tend to put them more on seeds, unsprouted seeds, and that's not actually their natural diet. They can live off it, but it's healthier for them and for us to have them eating bugs and sprouts. Now, if they're free ranging, oh, by the way, my goal with all this is to create the happiest chooks and that grow the healthiest eggs. And then at the end of their life, when they've stopped laying, if you want to eat them, they are the healthiest chooks to eat. So that's my goal. Also, something they eat is the scraps from the house. So every day we throw scraps out for them. They'll pick through them. What they don't eat, the possums finish off. So that's a good money saver as well, and adds a bit more variety to the diet. Usually it's a bit of protein and maybe some bit of rice or something like that that's in there, and so that gives them another boost of food. Another thing that happens when they're out is that because there's little rocks and stuff everywhere, like on this road here, so these little stones, they need those to break their food up, because they don't have teeth and they don't chew. They need to have something else that breaks their food up for them from the start, and they'll eat those. Another thing I do is save their eggshells. When we've eaten the egg, we save the shell. I dry it out on top of the fireplace. I crush it up and put it in the scraps bowl, and then they eat those shells, and that helps them keep up their calcium and that sort of stuff, supplies, so their eggshells don't go thin. Now, what else can I show you what I do? Some of the other advantages of having them free ranging, and challenges. The problem you have free ranging is foxes, well, around here is foxes and hawks or eagles. Because it's close to the house and we have a couple of dogs, that does keep the foxes at bay. I've lost the chooks to foxes twice. It's really annoying, but we didn't have a dog at the time, and they were a bit further away from the house. So it hasn't happened since I've had them closer to the house. Also since we've had the dogs. So I'd say you've got to do that. You've got to keep them close, or they're just going to go on you. Also, I'm pretty sure I've lost one to a hawk at one stage, but it was only one, because with this, we've got so many trees around the place, like all this cover. It is difficult for a hawk to swoop down and grab a chook on you. They need a bit of space to do that. I guess from a health perspective, what makes the eggs healthy is they've got to have access to green grass. Now they don't absorb much of the stuff out of the green grass, because they are pretty much a carnivore, and they don't have a rumen or 4 stomachs like sheep or a cow does. They do get the beta carotene out of the grass, out of the green grass. And that's what makes your eggs go yellow, or nice darker yellow. When you have them free ranging, the composition of the yolk changes. It changes from an unhealthy balance of fats to a healthy balance. So ones that are farmed with no free ranging and not allowed to pick grass, they have a leaning towards omega-6s. Now, if you have an abundance of omega-6s and not a balance between omega-6 and omega-3, which is your fats, healthy fats, it causes inflammation in our own bodies. So one of the big problems with health is inflammation, and if you can bring down the inflammation, another way to bring it down, I'd highly encourage it. So you've got to let your chooks free range, your eggs are healthier, your body's less inflamed, and you're healthier. So that's how it works there. Not to mention a whole bunch of other minerals that you can get introduced into the eggs because they got so much access to so many different types of soils and plants. What else can we talk about? Oh yeah, some disadvantages, apart from the predators, is you end up with chook manure all over your veranda, what I do to combat that is it's kind of a little bit mean, I guess. When they get close to a window, or your door if you've got a glass door, what you do is you get a towel and you just flap it sort of in the window, and it scares the heck out of them. But they never really feel comfortable at coming on the veranda much when you're doing that once a week at them. So that's my technique. Works pretty good. And it's a bright day. It's good. It's sort of a bit fun. They do get a chance to dust bathe. So they'll have a dust bath. They'll have their spots. So there's advantages and disadvantages of dust bathing, or dust bathing. One is that the chooks get to do it if they're not locked up all day. The second one is that it can create a bit of a hazard in that they'll sort of do it anywhere that's convenient for them, and you end up with these holes everywhere, all over you. Wherever they feel like it's good, you'll end up with holes. So that might be a good spot, that might not be a good spot for you. They need to be able to dust bathe. Now, I've never wormed these chooks, and they do not have parasites that are affecting them badly. Now, they probably do have them, but there's no indication that they've got them. They're not scouring, they're not giving me misshapen eggs. Happy, they've got lots of energy, they're not dying. They've got healthy combs and wattles, so it's working. They might be eating something that is anthelmintic, which is a worm-killing chemical. So it's probably something in their diet that's keeping them happy and healthy in that way. Also, they're not sitting in their own crap all day inside a pen. I think there is one plant over here I think is got some fairly good anthelmintic properties in it, so I think they pick the leaves off this thing, and that's called a rhagodia, and I think it might be killing the worms in their guts. I'm not sure, but there probably are a couple of other plants around that they're foraging from, keeping themselves clean. Oh yes, one more thing. I better show you what I feed them in the middle of the day. I feed them after they've been out and had a good forage, so around about lunchtime, for them to have their food that I buy for them. So I just buy a seed mix. Just buy a mix there. All I feed 18 chooks is one tin full of food. That's it. And I get about 14 eggs a day from that one tin of food. Now, apart from the barley sprouts, because the barley sprouts I do get pretty much for free. It's just so cheap to get barley. And I put that food in these tins here. I just spread it out for them to stop them fighting, and that's it. So it's pretty cheap to feed them, and yeah, so I got cheap, healthy eggs, and I have happy and healthy chooks. And that's it. That's how it's done. Thanks for watching.